Am I going to do this? You can start.
Monsieur Anber.
Monsieur Casavant.
I think we even caught a little bit of the you can start moment for the beginning of the podcast, as we don't have an official intro yet. We're about style or substance, I should say, over style, but it's another edition of the Calling Russ Anber podcast. And we have another special guest tonight to get to very shortly there. So how are you doing, Russ, this evening?
Not as good as I want to be, because right now I'm texting my wife upstairs so she could bring me a cup of tea, because you got me 15 minutes early because of our guest. I'm 15 minutes. I didn't get to make my cup of tea here, so now I got to order a cup of tea.
This is the first time that our guest was actually, even before you were on time, therefore very punctual this evening, and it's rare actually. Then we appreciate it, and we'll get to who
punctual.
We'll get to who the big name is in just a second, and it is a very interesting name and a former world champion. And I'm excited to be talking to him in a few moments here. But let me get some house cleaning in effect before we move on. We're sponsored. We have one of these sponsors on the show, and we enjoy him very much. Of course, it's the newest Canada sportsbook, online sportsbook and casino, bet99.com. Make sure to check out their player props, their risk-free bets. They're in live risk-free bet, I should say. Use the boxing code 99 and make sure to check them out again at bet99.com. If you use the boxing code promo boxing99 and you go up to $600, they'll match that without any really interest, risk-free. It's basically a great deal, so make sure to check them out at boxing99. And now their guest for this evening that I briefly mentioned here, Russ, is somebody I had a chance to meet a little bit backstage and fight in Toronto 3 years ago, when he fought Adonis Stevenson in a fight that ended up being a draw and a heck of a bout. And I believe you were there as well. I was working with Maslam Akdenis, an undefeated Canadian prospect who I worked cuts for, Mo being his trainer, Mo Latif. And Russ, I think if I recall, you were at the show as well in Toronto for one of the fights that Badou seems to be fighting a ton of Canadian fighters, really, in the last few years.
Not only when I was there was a moment captured in time, which is one of my favorite pictures of my entire career, where he comes back to the corner at the end of the round, his hands raised, and I hit him with the water when he comes back. It's an iconic moment for me, when we pulled off what I thought we were going to get the decision, a miracle that we were supposed to get beat, and I thought we won that fight that they ended up calling a draw. But it was a great night that night, and one of the guys that I've really, one of the true gentlemen in the game, and I always enjoy being around. And there's certain guys that you're around that make you feel like you being there is an important part. And Badou's always been one of those guys. I always felt like I was important in Badou's corner.
And speaking of Badou, he's there and he's joining us from a nice setup where I see a little bit of the pool table. Are you in Vegas right now, Badou? Is that where you're at?
Hey, what's up, guys? Yeah, I'm home in Vegas right now.
We were speaking about the Toronto fight. Do you remember that evening, that moment? Did you think, like Russ, that you had done enough to win that decision against Adonis?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Yeah. I was outlanding him. I thought I won, but yeah, the judges, you're in somebody's, he's a champion, and I'm in his hometown or home country at least, and yeah, it's hard to win a close fight, but draw. It is what it is. I think any of my so-called bullshit draws, that was the closest one.
That was the closest one? That was the closest one, you think? Yeah?
Yeah. Like, your other brother, Bute, that was no draw. And who was the other one? Even the Pascal fight, DeGale, all of them were bullshit. Stevenson fight I thought I won too. But yeah, that was the closest one. If they would have given me a draw in one of them, that would have been the one though.
You've been involved in so many. I mean, I don't know if there's a world champion that's been involved in as many draws as you've been involved in the world, especially in the modern era. And you've been involved in fights that have, like the DeGale fight, where an early round has made the difference in a fight. And the only reason he gets out of getting a draw is because by some asinine viewing, he gets a 2-point round for that little tap in the first round where you dominated the first round. And that goes from being a 10-9 round for you to a 10-8 round for him.
Right.
You batter him from pillar to post in the last round and knock him down and end up with the same score. Like I use that example often. It's just ridiculous. And then the Stevenson fight, that second round, I believe it was the second round to me, where you landed good looping right hand that we had talked about. And I thought you won that round. I don't know what the official, but to me, that was if they give you that round, you get the fight.
And the same thing, I think it was the 10th round. He caught, I was beating him up the whole round.
He got you the body shot.
He stop him. And then, bam, he caught me with a body shot. So
yeah,
hurt me a little bit.
Yeah.
But I still came back. But that round, same thing there. You go from one punch to, I landed 100 punches that round. But it was he got that round. I'm okay with that. But
yeah. But we should have had the second, you know, and that would have given us the fight, you know. But they thought, oh, he's 6 rounds up, you know. It was like almost like I relived those moments with the Lomachenko-Lopez fight, you know, like that we give him such an advance and then have to play catch up, you know, all the way through. And so
but with Stevenson though, since he's so explosive and dangerous in the beginning, I knew I was gonna break him down. I know you got to be a little careful in the beginning. Maybe I went a little too long, but I still thought I did enough. So the rounds that he won with maybe 2-3 punches, not much. And the rounds that I won was huge with 30-40 punches. So but that's how you score round by round.
Rounds, that's right. Yeah. That's why you're the example I always give about how this mandatory 2 points for a knockdown is stupid. Like it's asinine. You cannot treat every knockdown equally. There are better knockdowns, some than others. And you have to think, when you score a knockdown, who's winning the round when it happens? Or if you get knocked down early, who wins the round the rest of the way through? These are important things that people just don't get.
Or if you look at people after the fight, like who really took the punishment. Look at DeGale after the fight.
Yeah.
Look at a couple of other guys after the fight. So
that's true.
Basically, even if it was a close or whatever, even if it wasn't no dirty boxing politics involved, I really won the fight.
Yeah, you won the fight. That's right.
Easy.
Yeah. You got a draw in the boxing match, but you won the fight.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and the fighter, the one fighter who you were saying, Russ, how many fighters has been involved in so many close draws? And one name that comes to mind, and it was around the same weight class as Badou, was Glenn Johnson, who I remember used to seemingly always be kind of on this bad end of some of these controversial close decisions. And Badou has a style that it just seems Badou like no opponent is able really to get a clear victory over you. No matter what it is, it's going to be a tough fight. And you brought up the Bute fight. Wasn't that's already been a long time ago, and you did get a disqualification win based on the fact he tested something for the PEDs afterwards. Yeah. Was that the craziest one where the result, because being in Washington, it wasn't necessarily his hometown, it was supposed to be neutral territory? Was that the one that really you say that's the craziest draw I had on my record, even though it got eventually switched to a disqualification win?
Yeah, but it was so much in stake in the other fights. But this, to me, I won like 9-3 or 8-4 or something like that. To me, that was he won maybe the last 2 rounds or something. To me, that was easy. But yeah,
I wasn't at that fight, unfortunately. And I always thought, and we've spoken about this before, Badou, I always thought that it was so asinine to take one of Montreal's biggest ticket sellers ever, in Lucien Bute, take him to Washington to fight a transplanted Swede living in Las Vegas and bring him to Washington and have them fight each other. Like, it just went against everything I ever learned about boxing and about promoting and about, getting the hometown thing going, whether the fight would have been in Vegas or you come to Montreal for even more money, which happens the same way that Hopkins came and fought Jean here, that's where the money was, but there's the hometown crowd. They care about it. And that we ended up fighting.
The co-main was a Mexican and DeGale, like you.
That's right, an Englishman and a Mexican. That's right.
Yeah, there was no people there. It was like last minute they changed it. I think it was supposed to be somewhere else, but yeah, that was kind of weird.
That back then, you and Bute, that fills 15,000 people into the Bell Center without a problem. Without a problem.
Yeah. And he was also, and not last minute, but I was supposed to fight Chavez Jr. and he had some, I don't know, drug problems or whatever. So I think they gave me Bute like 7 weeks out. So he still had basically a full camp. But yeah, I was supposed to fight Chavez.
Right.
Bute and Stevenson are both southpaws. You seem to have fought a lot of southpaws and had success. Is that something you hear a lot of the style orthodox fighters don't like to fight southpaws? Has that been for you though? Have you noticed a difference? Have you noticed that being something that you have to game plan for, or you're so used to have it seeing throughout your career that it wasn't an issue to fight these southpaws?
Yeah, and also James DeGale and Marcus Brown. So
That's right.
In 5 fights, 4 of them were southpaws. Yeah, I mean, some people don't like southpaws. I don't love southpaws, but I have a good right hand, and it's easier to land the right hand, I think. But yeah, my coach at the time, Lou DeVal, he was a southpaw, so yeah, he taught me kind of how to fight southpaw. So I don't really have problems, but I would say I would probably prefer a right-handed fighter. It's you don't no headbutts usually, and it's kind of easier to find a right-handed.
And how are you keeping busy these days, Badou? I mean, we know about the pandemic situation. You had one fight, of course, on the Triller show that now is exploding. We can maybe get to that a bit later, but how are you feeling right now? Do you still plan on wanting to continue and having multiple fights this year? Where exactly do you stand right now?
Yeah, so Floyd called me I think probably the week after I fought Pascal. Probably January last year. I forgot what year it is. Yeah, 2020. Yeah. you guys fighting rematch before he even said hi. He said, I got you the rematch. You fight a rematch with Pascal in April. I was like, all right. And then the pandemic happened and whatever. And then they said probably to the fall. And I guess they offered the fight to Pascal for Gervonta Davis undercard when he fought Santa Cruz in October. He wanted more money or whatever the money he wanted that was in his contract, which I respect. This is the hurt business. You're supposed to get paid. So yeah. So and then Tyson and them call us and say, you want to do an exhibition fight on my card against Roy Jones against some MMA guy or something? Just like it was 4 weeks away. I said, yeah, why not? Because it don't look like this fight's gonna happen right now anyway. So they said the first quarter of 21, you guys have to fight. Yeah, so I took that fight, and they changed it from an exhibition to a regular fight.
But you fought a real boxer though, not a MMA guy.
Yeah, a real boxer, but not the best boxer. But yeah,
that's okay.
Yeah, he was 13-0, but he was club fighter, like a military guy.
Yeah. But the thing is, this is what fighters used to be. If more fighters would do this and keep fighting regular, there's 2 things that happen. Keeps you in the gym as a champ, keeps you in the gym ready to go all the time. Yeah. And those guys that fight, that guy got a payday fighting you. That guy got into the ring to get a chance to fight you. If you guys don't take those kind of fights, those guys don't get to work. They don't make their living.
And he got probably sponsors, the opportunity to. That was a huge pay-per-view card, like numbers. It did great.
Of course.
So no, it was great for him too. I'm happy for the kid too. He never would have got that opportunity.
No, he would not have. And I think that's why we need more of this stuff. That's why I say when you fighting in Washington against Bute, like it seems that we've lost the concept of nurturing, promoting, growing your hometown guys, getting people, getting asses in the seats so they come and see these guys fight. And then when you go to the negotiation table, you tell the promoter, yo, I want this much money. And they say, oh yeah, but what for? Why? Because I put people in seats.
Right.
That's the way it used to be done, before we had the privilege of casinos giving away money for free. You have to promoters have to sell fights, fighters have to sell themselves. You have to be competitive. You took expensive fights, then you kept busy by taking less expensive fights, then you got expensive fights. You did that. We seem to have gotten away from that, and now it's very selectful. Fight twice a year, go to camp for 8 weeks, and they think that's training, and they think that's boxing, and that's what it's become.
Well, kind of like Canelo, they giving him shit for fighting that dude, the Turkish dude he just fought, but he's being busy and he's fighting the other champions next. So I don't think that's nothing wrong, and it's not his fault that this dude was the mandatory.
I was just going to say, he fought Callum Smith and then fought his mandatory in 2 months. What do you want more from the guy?
Right.
You're going to say, okay, Yildirim shouldn't have been the mandatory. Don't blame Canelo for that.
Yeah.
If you're not happy, huh?
Just beat him, get him out the way, and on to the champ.
That's right. But don't be mad at Canelo. But you want to be mad at WBC or something. Don't be. He's fighting, and he doesn't need the money, but he's fighting.
Right.
He's fighting.
I would love to fight 5 times a year if I could. If it was up to me, I would. You know, I don't like to fight. I fight only once or twice a year. The last 4 or 5 years, I don't want to do that. I want to fight 4 or 5 times a year.
Right.
I would love to. I want to go from a training camp to a training camp. I don't even need 8 weeks.
Right.
You know, give me a month in between, a little rest, depending on maybe you can't fight Adonis Stevenson or a fight of the year 4 or 5 times a year. But if you give a tune-up or stay busy fight in between, that's how you make more money, you may be more active, it's easier to make weight and all that stuff. Everything would be better.
You know what, Badou? I know this has been said a lot, and Buddy McGirt, who we had on the show last week, mentioned this as well, and I want to reiterate it again. Sugar Ray Robinson fought Jake LaMotta.
Yeah.
He got beat. 10 days later, 10 days, he took a tune-up fight. Now, this is after losing to Sugar Ray Robinson. He took a tune-up fight against Jackie Wilson to get him ready for the rematch 10 days later against Jake LaMotta. So you fought Jake LaMotta twice and Jackie Wilson inside of 21 days, roughly. You know what I mean? So, and today's guys think if they fight twice a year, they're busy. They're busy. You know, it's crazy.
You know what's also crazy is Badou. You mentioned, of course, the fight Don Triller for the 8-round fight against Blake McKernan that you've defeated. But that was one of a crazy pay-per-view event. But you were also on the undercard when you defeated Nathan Cleverly in Vegas of the Mayweather McGregor crazy spectacle. Like
I was there.
And Badou, like you have a relationship with Floyd Mayweather that most people do not have. You're very close with him and stuff. Like, how much do you think his ability to become a major pay-per-view star, to create these events, are now having an effect with this new Jake Paul type pay-per-view events that are happening in boxing? Do you think that has anything to do with it, or are you a fan of it? What's your stance on that right now?
I mean, I'm not a fan of the YouTube guys as personalities or as fighters, but I mean, they're making money and they promote themselves. This is the social media era, so I guess they doing, from a business point of view, they doing great. I mean, that dude Jake Paul is calling out Floyd, Canelo, talking to everybody. Everybody hates him, so and he's gonna get a lot of payday. So from that point of view, yeah, he's doing a great thing. So yeah, I guess
that's the only part of it that I don't like. I was telling when we discussed this isn't the first time the subject has come up, but when we've discussed it, I said, hey, you can't knock these guys. They're getting paid that because they're bringing, like we said earlier, they're bringing those asses into the seats. They're bringing eyes that would not normally tune in to watch. Right. And any manager or trainer would love to have had a guy. My guy sells this many tickets. You got to pay. They'd love it, right? Let's be fair.
They know how to talk too. They don't know how to sell themselves.
Right. But
they might not know how to fight, but they know how to talk.
Yeah, but that's where I kind of look. That's the same. The part that's bothering me is there are certain champions. All champions in boxing deserve a certain respect.
Yeah.
And you can't come off not even being a professional boxer because you're like a fake pro boxer, because anybody can get a license, and you start calling out the Canelos and the Mayweathers and the real fighters, the real champions who deserve respect. Right. I think now you're crossing the line a little bit on doing that. I'm okay when you want to, KSI and the other one, two YouTubers want to fight each other and they make money doing it. You got my blessing, because any boxing guy would love to be able to pull a stunt like that off. Right. They pulled it off, but don't come off saying Canelo. Like you likely would soil your pants leaving the dressing room if you had to actually fight Canelo. Like you might shit yourself leaving the dressing room.
Well, what about Badou? Do you think Logan gets the fight with Floyd? Like, do you think Floyd's really interested in that fight, or can you even talk about that at all? Like, what do you think is going to happen there?
I mean, I haven't talked to Floyd about it, but yeah, it looks like it's going to happen. I don't know. It looks like it. So, yeah. I mean, he has one fight against KSI. He lost, but I guess he's a big name, and it's all about the money.
But and you mentioned social media, but one of the best Twitter follows for boxing is Badou himself. You got to follow him on Twitter. And one of the tweets that I want to get to, because you mentioned a little bit here, Jean, and the talk of the rematch. And one thing you said a few months ago on Twitter, I'm going to read it here just to be sure I don't screw this up. But you wrote, "This guy used to be humble, but I guess I beat it out of him." This is after a fight, a picture of you and him. He couldn't even stand up when we took the picture. No judges needed for the rematch. And there's been a lot of back and forth between you and Jean on Twitter. So is this legitimate beef? Or are you guys trying to hype the fight? Like, what's the stance on where the rematch is going to happen or not?
No, I mean, you know me. I don't beef with nobody. I don't have time. I take care of my family. I have fun. I don't beef with nobody. I love to fight, but I don't like to talk shit. So he started blaming it. Oh, you haven't signed the contract. Like, we have a contract. We're gonna have a rematch. And he's frustrated that that he hasn't fought in a long time. It's not my fault that you had the opportunity, but you wanted to get paid more, which I respect. But and I took bullshit money for a stay busy fight. But I think he's frustrated like that, and whatever. And he's mad the fans, think that I won the fight. Everybody, 75% of everybody thought I won. So maybe he's mad at that, but yeah, we talked, and a little bit private message too. So we're just waiting for the date now. So, me and Russ been there too. We sparred together before. I like John, like it's but it's a business,
And Jean can be a great promoter when he wants to be. Jean could
he's not a bad guy. He's not a bad guy, but I won the fight. It's not his fault that he got the decision or whatever. But we're gonna have a rematch, and you'll see slow starter or whatever. You'll see.
And you know what? If you would have got the decision, then Jean would have said he wanted a rematch and he wants to fight, because that's the kind of guy he is. He like he did it with Kovalev, right? Like he's that kind of a work. Jean could get assigned to fight the janitor of the Bell Center, and he'd find something bad to say about him, and he'd create an interest, and he'd say something crazy to sell it. He understands the business of boxing. But you're right, he's not the bad guy that sometimes people make him out to be, and that's coming from me. Jean, I have defended the undefendable. Jean is sometimes undefendable, but you're right.
We actually I talked to him before he fought what's her name, Marcus Brown. Before the fight, I was in Dubai. I was rooting for him. I told him some tricks or whatever. Not that I won that fight because, I was
worst night of my life, by the way, just so you know.
We'll get to that.
Night of my life that night.
Let Badou finish his thought, though. But we'll get to that cut in a second.
No, I'll just showing my support to him, and I was happy that he won because he's a good dude, and the other guy is not a good dude. So
yeah.
And that Marcus Brown fight, when you get to it, Russ said that was the worst cut he had to ever deal with in his career. Yeah. And how much do you think? We know the cuts always have impact, but how much strength and courage you had to have to not say to the corner, you know what? Let's stop this. Let's see another day. And you still want it to continue. Like, where do you go? Where does that focus come from? Where you can say, you know what? I'm badly cut here. This is a disaster, but I got to keep on fighting and still try to win this fight.
I mean, I'm a fighter, so I'm not gonna say nothing. But it was kind of hard to see, but it looked worse. It looked worse than it was because it was bleeding so much. But I mean, it was bad, but it got worse the longer the fight went. But that dude had never been 12 rounds. That never, he wasn't really not on my level. He never really fought nobody. So I was like, man, I don't care. I'm gonna get him in the later rounds like I always do. So, but yeah, unfortunately, I have a little problem. I was a little flat that night, regardless of the cut. So I had no snapping my punches. I felt like shit that fight. But I'm not gonna quit. I'm a fighter. Same thing happened to him. Not same thing. He got cut also, and he quit, or they stopped it right away when he fought Pascal.
No, that's right.
And then it's a different, some people is gonna continue to fight, some people are gonna quit.
Do you remember how many stitches you took that night?
I don't know, to be honest, but I think I counted 30, but they say it's 3 layers. So I guess 90 then?
Yeah, they said 96 stitches.
Something like that, yeah.
Now, this is, Badou, I said it was the worst night because I never thought I'd be in a situation where I wouldn't be able to get the cut. You know what I mean? Like to get it. If you didn't get it the first time, you get it the second time. That thing just kept growing, and it was on the vein, and that kept from that bottom just kept pouring down. Everything else was fine. You could see your bone up top. You know, you were able to see the bone, and it just kept coming from that vein that runs up the front of your forehead. And I thought to myself when that was going on, how did they ever stop fights on a cut before? Right. Like, how could you have ever stopped a fight before if you don't stop this one? And every time that slow doctor, you didn't see him because you're sitting in the corner. He's going up the steps to look at the ring, and I'm saying, how does he keep saying, "Yeah, carry on"? I couldn't believe it, you know, that this was happening, and it was crazy. It was absolutely insane. And you raised the question about Marcus Brown. I went through the same thing when I was with Harold Knight. When Yildirim fought Anthony Durrell, and he got cut, you couldn't even see blood. They stopped the fight and go to the scorecards.
Yeah. Not even Marcus Brown cut, but I saw it on TV. It was pretty bad, but it was nothing compared to my cut.
No.
But I don't know if the referee stopped it or he quit or the corner stopped. I don't remember what happened. I know they stopped it right away though.
Right.
And went to the scorecard. So
but
I guess
those are the type of nights I would think though, Badou. Like now you're 38 years old, you're still in great shape, but do you think to yourself?
I'm still 37.
37, pardon me, 37. Well, that's right.
October, I'm 38.
All right, my apologies. 37. Now, but in the shape you're in, but when you have those type of nights against Marcus Brown and that type of cut, are you thinking to yourself, man, why am I still doing this? Maybe this is getting, too much damage, not too much damage, but too much risk of getting these type of cuts, getting this type of wars that could happen? Or do you see yourself continuing to fight? Because you said you want to be active. Like, when do you think, do you even see possibly retirement, or you're not even thinking that way? You just want to get back to the title?
No, I want to get not back to I want to get that's my title. I want to get that one back, and then we'll see what happens. But no, I started boxing late. So I started when I was 18 with amateur boxing. I turned pro when I was 26, I think. So I haven't been that active. Even though I had tough fights, I had pretty good defense, so I don't really take, of course you're going to get hits sometime and headbutted sometime. But I don't feel like I took a lot of punishment. And in the gym, I feel great. So I'm a young 37-year-old.
And you've always gone into the ring in good shape as well. Yeah. Like you did. You've never let that time go in where you're out of shape. Took an easy fight that ended up being hard and put your body under, undue stress that it was not ready to take. You've always been in good shape. So that's a throwback approach as well.
Yeah, this is a lifestyle. You can't just be, train for 8 weeks for a training gap and that's it. You gotta. You don't have to train super hard all year round, but then you're gonna burn yourself out. But you always stay in the gym, and I'm a family guy. I don't drink. I'm a Muslim. I don't do nothing bad outside of boxing other than have some Nevada chicken with you. In-N-Out burger.
So the ideal 2021 game plan, Badou, if I understand correctly, here is fight Gian, a rematch. You want to win that title back. And then do you even looking further than that, or you're just focusing on getting the rematch and getting your title?
No, right now my only focus is John Pascal.
Wow.
I've got something I want to share with you, Badou, and I want you to share your thoughts. We've spoken about this before, and you're one of the few guys who has openly spoken to me about this. So actually, it's not true because Mick Conlon said the same thing. But on Sunday, I'm leaving for Moscow for Arthur Beterbiev's fight.
Yeah.
And when I first told you that I was working with Arthur, you right away brought up stories of having seen him in the amateurs. I'd like you to share that from coming from a fighter.
First time, I think it was probably 2003, 2004, maybe. First time I saw him, I was a middleweight and he was a light heavyweight at the time. He was knocking everybody out in the amateurs, everybody. He was very good, very strong. The strongest, probably one of the not maybe the most explosive, fastest guy, but raw power. Like back then in the amateurs, there was not a lot of knockouts at the high level. Yeah, he stopped the Black Russian, what's the name, Ismail Salak. Everybody, no. And everybody was talking about Kovalev at the time. Kovalev was not number one. So when he turned pro, when he was champ, I said, "There's another guy from Russia. He's even better than Kovalev. He beat Kovalev. He's a Muslim guy. He's a beast." I told Mike, I told everybody, it was all right. And then he turned pro.
Yeah, that's right.
He was actually supposed to fight. I think it was in Bulgaria. So he won his fight. We was supposed to fight in the final, and I had fever. So the doctor at the weigh-in, the doctor said, "No, you got fever." It was not that bad fever, but they said no. So he won by a walkover.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. But that's
like 2006, 2005, something like that.
The only other guy who's spoken so highly of him as a fighter, Mick Conlon, spoke to me about him as well. And there's always a fighter that, as amateurs, when you're in a tournament, you're in the dressing room, there's certain guys you step out to go and watch. For us, stepping out and watching Roy was special. Oh, Roy's fighting, you got to get out and watch Roy. On the Canadian scene, everyone stepped out to watch Otis Grant's brother, Howard Grant. Everyone stepped out of the dressing room to watch Howard fight. And Beterbiev was that. Mick said Beterbiev was that guy. Everyone, wow, look at this guy. Well, this guy can go. The Smith brothers also talked to me about Beterbiev as well in the amateur career, how they spotted him. That's always intrigued me, how nobody none of the big American promoters went after Beterbiev as an amateur.
Right.
And when you look at the division, Badou, now, like, do you see Arthur Beterbiev as the top guy in the division? He has most of the titles. There's no Canelo. If Canelo were to move out at 175, do you think he'd be a factor at that weight division? Do you assess? Because I know you follow the sport. Not only are you a fighter, but you're also kind of a student of the game. So if you were to analyze that division, do you think Arthur is clearly above? And do you think a guy like Canelo, who's pound for pound now number one, but is he going to be a factor at 175 one day, you think?
Yeah, I mean, he's in my weight class, and as of right now, I got robbed many times. It would have been different situation if I would have got all the wins that I had. Plus, you can't just judge it by this guy knocked everybody out, and who look at the guy who I fought, for example. But for me right now, Beterbiev is number one, 100%. 100%.
You agree with
Canelo? I think Canelo wouldn't. He knows. They picked Kovalev for a reason. I don't think he's gonna fight at 175. He's what is it, 5'7" or something? He's too short for the big guys, or for the guys that are in their prime.
You ever talk about with Floyd about the fact that his win against Canelo looks even better now when you consider how he dominated Canelo, and Canelo is regarded now as one of the great Mexican fighters, and deservedly so. But I know Canelo was 20 at the time, but it was one of those performances. I don't think maybe Floyd gets criticism sometimes for the way he wins fights, but that fight, he wasn't just all defense. He was able to counter, and he was able to pick apart Canelo, extremely well. I think he doesn't get enough credit for that win, especially now when you look back at how good Canelo ended up being.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was 23, and Floyd was 36. So they can't, and Canelo had like 42 fights or something. So you can't say. Maybe he wasn't ready for somebody like Floyd, but if you have 42 fights, you're supposed to fight anyone. Come on. Yeah. Floyd barely had that many fights at the time.
And that's true. But that said, I think they made a very calculated move in putting Canelo in with Floyd, because you don't want to take your cash cow that Canelo was and put him in a fight that's going to ruin his career. So I think they knew that even if they thought he was going to get beat, he wasn't going to get hurt, and he could only come out of that, unless he was so weak mentally, he was going to come out of that a better fighter. And I think he has proven to be, he's not a shadow of what he was. I mean, he's so much better, I should say, than what he was then. As good, even with the 42 fights, he started very young, but just the way he has matured, just watching him, his abilities, what he has become, I think that the Mayweather fight helped him immensely and helped him deal with that stage as well. Not just what happens in the ring, but what happens on that big stage. And that's a hell of a difference from just a club show, right?
Yeah. He actually stole a lot of moves from Floyd too. So when it comes to business, when it comes to fighting style, a little bit shoulder roll, the defense, everything. So he learned a lot from that fight. And he did. Floyd definitely looked that win looks great for him now. It's probably, I don't know, maybe his best win. Floyd's best win. I don't know, especially at the age at the time. He was 36, 37. So yeah,
That's interesting. Floyd's best win, really, huh?
No, I'm one of them. I don't really remember. Maybe
the Corrales win is looked at as one of his good wins as well in the lower weight classes. But I think when Floyd became Money Mayweather, then definitely it's up there. I think it's one of his best
wins, definitely.
See, mine, especially with what this fighter did after the Mayweather fight and how good he was, not good, great.
Yeah.
And yet he looked so ordinary against Mayweather is Juan Manuel Marquez.
Yeah, you're right. Styles make fights.
Marquez is one of the greatest fight. I don't know why he's not brought up more often when they talk about great Mexican fighters. He does things that the layman doesn't notice, but the real boxing guys see the quality behind what he does. You can certainly ask Manny if that's true or not, right? You can ask him.
I love Marquez style. I love it.
Yeah, man, me too. One of my favorites. And Mayweather, it was like Marquez looked like a novice. It's as if you handpicked the guy for Floyd, It was crazy.
Even though it was a little smaller, like he's still, Floyd is not a natural, welterweight either. And he walk around at 47. Yeah. All of these guys Marquez probably walk around way heavier than Floyd. So
Well, and just we're on the topic of Floyd, and we're only a few minutes left with Badou, who's been extremely generous with his time here this evening. I saw Floyd in Toronto. He came to your fight, and Floyd goes to a lot of the Mayweather promotion fights, but I don't see him as vocal at times that he was that night, and he is when you fight. Like, how's the relationship with you and Floyd? Do you see him more as not only a promoter, but a friend, kind of a coach in a sense? Because he was throwing a lot of instructions also from ringside, and he seems to be very involved in your career. Like, how did that relationship come about, and how do you see Floyd really in your career, Badou?
I mean, he's been with me since day one, I almost said. But yeah, almost like my career here in Vegas. So I don't remember one fight that he hasn't been in the ringside. Yeah, actually, when we was on the same card, when he fought Conor McGregor, he was in the locker room. But no, he's been like a mentor when it comes to business, when it comes to everything, boxing, everything. I mean, he's been great to me. I'm very thankful for everything he's done for me.
Awesome. And before we let you go, Badou, I don't know, Russ, if you had any final thoughts you can add as well. Is there anything for the fans who would like to see you again? Do you want to send any message to Jean? Because Jean is a Montreal guy. Russ knows him extremely well, having worked with him for many of his fights in his career. You talked about the fact you're confident it's going to happen, but do you have any final words for any fans out there, or for those who want to see the Jean Pascal fight? Are you saying be patient? What kind of words can you tell the fans right now?
I mean, just people love that fight, and it was like a fight of the year candidate, and we're gonna do it again, and I think it's gonna happen real soon. I'm just waiting for the date to start training camp. I'm staying busy. I'm ready, and it's gonna be a hell of a fight rematch.
I'd like to say as well that sometimes, and this happens in the sport of boxing, and I said this to you, Matthew, not just for here, but when I've spoken to you, that Jean Badou are highlight moments in my life. Like, there's some of the greatest people I've worked for in boxing, and I feel so honored to have done that. And when the fight was made, I called Badou and told him that I couldn't be there. Yeah. And I told him why. And the reason I gave him was, I said, when I'm in the dressing room wrapping your hands and I get to have you on that one-on-one and talk to you, I want to tell you, I want you to knock this motherfucker out. Yeah. I want you to get this guy, and I try to tell her, I try to raise up every emotion I can in him to win. And I told him I couldn't do that with Jean because of my love for Jean, the friendship I had with Jean, having been with him, not only his pro career, but, a good part of his amateur career, and traveled with him internationally. And that wouldn't have been fair to Badou. And so I called Badou and told him that. And then I called Jean and told him I was going to do that. And he said, "Oh, Russ," I said, "No, that's okay." He says, "You can go." I said, "No, because if I go, you're going to get beat." If I go, you're gonna go get me. But that's what's that, Badou?
You got beat anyway.
Yeah. I said, but that's the respect I have for both
no, I respect that a lot too. Like that's your boy, and we all family. Well, I mean, it's business, but I understand stuff. Like I even told Mike that same thing. I said it's not. I don't feel comfortable either. That put him in that position. So no, that.
And I wanted to be, when I'm with you, I want to give you my best. I want to yell. I want to scream from the corner. I want to be happy when you do things, and that's not. I couldn't feel that I had any hatred or malice towards Jean to have that animosity to cheer you on to knock him out, and that's not fair to you having me in your corner, because I'd like to think that I'm there for more than just hand wrapping and cuts. And that's what I enjoy working with you guys, that it's more than just hand wraps and cuts. And one of the greatest moments for me with working with you was, and it was caught on TV, was in the DeGale fight when Lou said to you, even Russ says to throw it on the right hand, or whatever it was, right? And so I thought that, that was something that made me believe that the team was there for one purpose, and that was for you. And I always felt good about doing that. So thank you for giving me that opportunity. It always will be a highlight of my career to have worked with you, brother.
Thank you, brother.
And Badou, just before I let you go, because I see a bit of the pool table. Who wins? You or Russ when you guys play pool?
Stop.
Come on, man.
Stop.
Russ, easy work. Yeah.
That's right. Easy work.
Really? All right. There you go. So I guess the next training camp in Nevada. So what are you basically? What's the gift for tonight? The prize or that you're going to be giving out to Badou next time you see him?
Well, because I didn't think he would go to In-N-Out Burger. I know the restaurant that he does go to in Vegas, because we paid Abel Sanchez with In-N-Out Burger. You see, right. Abel's happy with In-N-Out Burger. So I said it would be Nevada chicken, and but now he says there's another spot. So we'll see.
There's actually a Puerto Rican spot. Forgot the name. Sofrito Rico is amazing. I took a Puerto Rican a guy there. He said, Puerto Rican food in Vegas? He's from New York. He was like, this is the best. This is better than in Puerto Rico. This is amazing. Really? Yeah, this restaurant is nice. Really good. I'll take
Listen,
it
if I was to be able to take you anywhere, I would want to take you to a Jamaican restaurant, but that's even hard to find. So,
but I got one. Well, I sent you there, right?
No, the Jamaican one.
Yeah, it's on Sahara and Buffalo. I think I sent you there, but I didn't have time to go. No. All right, it's a great one. It's a great one. Next time we go there.
Okay, there, you got it. I'm in.
Dinner at lunch at Jamaican, dinner at Puerto Rican.
All right, sounds good.
All right, well, I'm sure. Well, hopefully everybody can get back to Vegas eventually for a big night of fights. Badou, we wish you the best of luck. Russ, stick around here for a little second as we say bye to Badou. Badou, thank you so much.
Badou, thanks,
best of
brother.
luck this year.
Thank you, guys.
Salam.
Walaikum salam. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, Russ. And if we continue here, give me a second. Just a few little final topics here. It was great to talk to Badou, by the way. It's fun to have fighters who are also, that's the biggest difference I find sometimes with other sports. They want to talk about the game. They want to have conversations about the sport. They're passionate about it. And not only when they're fighting or promoting an event, because Badou's not promoting anything right now. He's still, like you said, in talks with Jean.
Matthew, I mean what I tell you. That's why it means a lot. And I think that's why he accepted to be on, is because the respect that he has always given me and I've given him, and why it's so important in my life that I worked with Badou Jack. One day, God willing, there will be a Russ Anber tell-all book, and Badou is going to be in that as a guy that I was so honored to work with, and I mean that.
I believe it 100%. I want to get your thoughts on Savannah Marshall, Claressa Shields potentially fighting after Claressa Shields unified the 154-pound division last week. Before you do, I'm just going to reread this now. I tried to do it off memory, but I kind of butchered the ad read. So I know the promoter, the sponsors are going to want a better read. So let me just read it here. Sign up at bet99.com. All right, folks, there's fights this weekend. Chocolatito, Gonzalez, and Estrada are rematching. There's fights as well that are on other cards. So you're going to look into possibly making some money over the weekend with some interesting odds and some interesting fights. Make sure to sign up at bet99.com. There's Canada's newest online sportsbook and casino. Be sure to check out their player props, bet builder, and their risk-free live in-play bonuses. Use the boxing code 99 for a sports welcome offer and the deposit match of 100% up to $600. That sounded a bit better.
That was
So,
better.
all right. Claressa Shields last week were big favorite. She wins against DeGale. DeGale showed heart, showed courage, but difficult task for her to face Claressa, different level maybe of style of fight. And after the fight now in this week, there's been lead up and build up to potentially her going to the UK with Eddie Hearn promoting Savannah Marshall. Savannah Marshall is the fighter who defeated Claressa in the amateurs, even though Claressa Shields disagrees with the performance and the decision. Russ, your overall thoughts if that fight were to happen, or the back and forth, because Claressa Shields has been very vocal as well, going after Eddie Hearn and trying to sell this fight and the prospects of that fight happening.
You know, I think the social media has created an avenue that has changed the game. And the fact that somebody like Claressa Shields can be insulting and disrespectful to somebody like Eddie Hearn, you know, I don't know that there's room. I don't know that there's room for it in this game. I don't know how doing that enhances your popularity. I don't know how doing that makes you a more in-demand product. You know, I don't know that that's better. I don't know how that sells more pay-per-views when you create this kind of animosity among everybody. That's the guy that could deliver Savannah Marshall for you, right? That's the guy that brings you the big fight. And so you turn around and disrespect him and call him out, call him a clown on social media. I don't see what the benefit of that is. And someone mentioned, you know, who's handling her PR. It just doesn't make sense. And I think if boxing, women's boxing is to succeed, and this is not telling people how they should live, how they should act or whatever, but if it's to succeed, it has to be through people who are successful, through people who are viewed by others as successful. And if we just use the men as an example, whether it's Anthony Joshua, whether it's Canelo, whether it's any of the great champions of the past, there has always been this affiliation with the fans. There's always been this connect with the fans. Those are the big stars when you transcend the sport. And none of them have done it by.
Whoa. If you, Floyd Mayweather loved the fact that he became somebody who, by his voice, kind of put himself in a position to win these big fights, and people were tuning in to see him not only win, but possibly lose, right? He became a major attraction.
But he promoted himself.
Well, Claressa Shields is doing a good job of getting that pay-per-view event, getting a contract with MMA. Agree or disagree with the way and her tone and going after people on social media. It has been productive in her getting attention from the media and getting these opportunities, though. We'll have to wait and see about the Savannah Marshall one, but I don't think you can maybe disagree with the way she's going about it, but the end result is she's getting attention. She's getting she got the pay-per-view event last weekend in Flint, Michigan. She may get a contract. She did get a contract, and she may be fighting in MMA. So look, she's a two-time Olympic gold medalist. It may not be your cup of tea and our cup of tea of the way she's doing it, but it's producing some results, maybe more so than if she were just quiet and waiting for her opportunity without, calling people out.
So we digress, because you asked me about the Savannah Marshall fight.
Yeah, let's get to that before we close the show.
And I said to you, I didn't think it's good going after Eddie the way she is. Now, so Claressa's doing her thing. That's what you want to do. No one's telling you what to do. You want to be your own boss. Go ahead. No problem. That's what you want to do. Now you're right. I'm not saying I have the right answer. It isn't my cup of tea, which, by the way, I have no cup of tea tonight, just so you know.
Well, so Stephanie denied you the request, huh?
I guess you didn't get the text message. You didn't get the memo. You didn't get the memo. So, it wouldn't be my cup of tea. That's not the type of fighter. Like, I love the Badou Jacks of the world. I love these kind of athletes that carry them but that's me. There's
Right.
other people who love what Clarissa's doing, and great. And if you forget about how she acts, but her performances and what her results are unquestionable. You know, you're a 2-time Olympic gold medalist. I tip my hat. I have to respect that from you. I'd be stupid if I didn't. You know, that would be ignorant of me for not to respect that. And I do. As a fighter, if I had someone fighting, I'd respect the hell out of what we have to do to fight somebody like that. But doesn't mean I have to agree with the approach.
Right.
Because everybody likes what they like. And that's okay. That's fine. It's not about hating. It's about what appeals to somebody. So one to appeal to one might not appeal to another. You know, some people like the color red, others like the color blue. It's not because one is better or worse than the other.
But Savannah Marshall is by far her biggest challenge, I think, right now in the sport of boxing in the female weight classes, correct?
Well, sadly, you can't say that it's a division, you know, overloaded with depth, you know, where you find 160-pound women who are on a world-class level to fight for world championships, you know. So unfortunately, it's not quite the same as maybe in the lower weight classes where, you know, smaller women in general fighting, you know, there might be a little bit more depth in some of the smaller weight classes, but
Right.
that's the weight class that they're in. So right now, Savannah has emerged as the, you know, the biggest threat in that division. So and she's a complete contrast in everything, in style, in conduct, in promotion, in success. You know, there's a big contrast in both these. A hell of an interesting fight. You know, it's this is but again, that's you have to get the two best, and those are the two best that are going to fight each other. And that's one thing, I guess, because of the lack of depth in the division, it's forced the women to have to fight each other. You know, the best fight the best when they can. So
and that's something and my final thought here is something Maria Zikar said, despite the fact that she lost by a shutout decision. She said she's going into boxing to fight the best and to measure up against the best. And it's something we're seeing women fight the best amongst each other much more than the men, who seem to be more about social media these days. And you're not seeing the best fight the best enough. And so that's something I got to credit the women who are deciding they know in the early stages to get the focus, to get the attention they deserve and they need to fight the best amongst themselves. And they're doing it so far. And hopefully we're going to see some of the men who are the best in their divisions. And I'm thinking especially of the lightweight division, not being just all talk, but eventually face off against each other as well.
That's what I was just about to say. That's the one that's bugging me the most. I mean, I've never seen so many guys go at it on social media, all in the same weight class. And I mean some nasty stuff to each other as well, like some really demeaning stuff and hateful stuff saying to each other. All the talent that's there. Tell me if I forget anybody. Gervonta, King Rai, Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, Loma. All these guys, 5 guys, great fighters in their own right. They all fighting somebody else.
Except for Lopez and Loma, of course, last year, who fought each other.
Yeah, right. But I mean, you know, there's 4 other guys he can fight now, you know?
Yeah.
If you don't fight Lopez doesn't fight right away because Lopez fighting Cambosis. God bless him. He got the payday fighting Cambosis. Okay, no problem.
Devin Haney's fighting somebody else.
Everybody's fighting somebody else. Yeah. Like, are you serious? Like, how does that even, doesn't make sense.
If they end up fighting by the end of this year, at least, and they start matching up against each other, I think it'll be a bit better. But if Lopez goes to 140, who knows? But ultimately, that's my final thought.
Those 5 guys could fight each other, and there'd be fights for the next 3 years.
And this here, sorry, as I pull back, history lesson, folks. This year, the 4 Kings, great book by George Kimball, the late George Kimball. They fought each other. Hagler, Hearns, Duran.
And you know, want to know something else? Benitez isn't even included in that, and he fought them all.
Well, he's in the book, but he's on the front page. But he's
the 5th king.
I would agree. Yeah, but that was a different time and era, and the women are doing it so far, and hopefully the men will follow suit, and it won't just be on social media. So, Russ, any final thoughts?
Roberto Duran moves up from lightweight, skips over the junior welterweight division, and goes straight to welterweight to fight Carlos Palomino. A great champion. He didn't take a bump. Fought Carlos Palomino before he fights Ray Leonard. Like, it just doesn't make sense. When you're that good, fight the guys that are that good. That's what boxing needs. You want boxing back? You want to be paid? You want to have those? you'll get paid. You'll get paid fighting those guys. That's to me, I think we shared something on Twitter. John Scully posted the rankings of, I don't know, mid 80s of the light heavyweight division. And this was when Victor Galindez was number 8 in the division. 8. Yeah. There were 8 guys better than Galindez, and then 9 and 10 was Conti and Yaki Lopez. Like, I mean, that's how deep the division was, and that's how the fighters fought each other. And similar to the welterweights, when Ike Corte, De La Hoya, Purnell, when those guys, that was a hot division as well. Guys fought each other. Fight each other. Like, you're at the summit of your careers. You're there. You're not in your development stages anymore. Fight these guys. So what if you got beat? So what if you were to lose? You fight again. You fight 2-3 times. It doesn't matter. Yeah, Pacquiao and Marquez fought 4 times. 4. Why? Because people wanted to see a great fight, and they were going to get paid for a great fight. Why not?
On that note, it's time to go to bed, Russ. It was another pleasure doing this. Thank you again to Badou Jack, and thank you for tuning in. Subscribe to the YouTube page if you can, please. Give us your thoughts and comments on Twitter, Instagram, whether you're listening, watching it on the YouTube channel or the other platforms. We really appreciate it. It's another edition of Calling Russ Anber. Mr. Anber, have a good evening, and we'll communicate next week while you'll be in Russia for the big fight for Arthur Beterbiev.
I hope we can do it again, Matt, and it's been a business doing pleasure with you.
A business? All right, that's an interesting take. Well, good evening, everyone, and we'll be talking soon. Take care.